So life on Earth, as magnificent as is, poses some unique challenges that we as a species need to tackle in order to progress and survive. Food is arguably the most important necessity that we need to provide for billions of people around the world on a daily basis. The biggest issue with it is the fact that from the very moment we harvest it, whether be it from animal or plant origin, it starts a timer that slowly begins to break it apart, while at certain point mold and bacteria begin to take over, rendering it inadequate for human consumption. Considering that all of this happens due to the existence of certain environmental conditions here on Earth, it makes some of us wonder if the same thing happens in a different environment with completely different factors such as space. Greetings everyone, my name is Nikola Tomic, and in today's video we're going to take a look at what would happen with our food if it ends up in the vacuum of space. So food preservation is a technique that has been utilized by humans from the very dawn of our existence, varying in methods depending on the region and the climate as well as the type of food that is available. Some of the earliest ways that our ancestors used for preservation is drying and cooling. These techniques are very simple and yet very effective at slowing down the process of decomposing by eliminating two major components necessary for this to happen. In the case of drying, that was prominent in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, for example. Various types of fruit and meat will be spread out, usually hanging from the wooden poles, while the sun and the wind remove moisture content, thus preventing any biological growth. Cooling and freezing, on the other hand, is something that early humans noticed during the Ice Age and is the main way we utilize it in our households even today. Low temperatures, just like drying, eliminate a crucial component from the decomposing process, and that is warmth. Various people living in the northern latitudes will combine these two methods simply by leaving their fish and other meat to dry out on a chill winter breeze. Salting is also one of the ancient ways that did wonders in keeping our food supplies fresh for as long as possible. The very nature of salt means that it's highly capable of absorbing moisture from the food, thus similar to drying, it makes a hostile environment for bacterial growth. The process known as the osmosis will deprive cells from any water content and kill or make inactive most of the microbes found in the food. Unlike the previous two methods, however, this one does require some extra preparation before consumption in order to get rid of all that salt. Now, food conservation is a topic for itself that would require a separate video, so we're gonna put a pause there and focus on the question, why do we have to do that in the first place? See, the very thing that allows us to survive on this planet, such as oxygen, water, food, and warmth of the sun, are also the things that allow fungi and bacteria to spread and inevitably find their way into our food. In the beginning of our race, we didn't quite understand why some of the preservation methods are effective, but we couldn't argue with the results. Today, we know that taking away one or more of these cornerstone factors will prevent the whole chain reaction from happening. So the question is, if that is how things work here on Earth, how would they play out in the vacuum of space where there is almost no oxygen and moisture, while the radiation tends to break apart any living cell? Well, putting food in a vacuum is something that we're already doing here on Earth. It is one of the newer methods of preservation, and it works by eliminating oxygen from the environment, thus preventing certain bacteria and mold from developing. It is used in conjunction with some other methods such as cooling or drying, mostly because anaerobic organisms can still continue to develop regardless of the oxygen level. So let's say that some of the food, such as steak or sandwich, found its way through an airlock into the void of space. Now, because the space is almost a perfect vacuum, there will be no pressure to contain the moisture inside the food, thus it will quickly evaporate, although some traces of it will still remain in the porous air pockets. Same would happen with the oxygen molecules. They will for the most part find their way out with only traces of it still lingering inside for some time. Because of the direct exposure to the radiation, the microbes already present on the food will start to die out with their cells being broken apart. Heating and cooling, depending on the direction in which the surface of this food is facing, will also contribute to the rapid demise of any living organism unfortunate enough to find itself in this situation. So with all that said, does this mean that any food jettisoned into space will remain perfectly preserved for an indefinite amount of time? Well, not quite. See, although space is the exact opposite from what you want when it comes to life development, it takes some time for everything to play out before the food that finds itself in it becomes completely sterile. Most of the oxygen and water molecules will be gone, but the small traces will still enable microbes to start the decomposition process for some time. Radiation will eventually break down the cells of these organisms, but not all of them at the same time and not immediately. The whole process will start and progress to a certain point before it's inevitably stopped chopped and frozen in time. So is it possible that if we launch a filet mignon into space, it will be picked up and enjoyed by some alien on his commute home? Well, it's not completely impossible. That brings us to the end of another video. I really hope that you enjoyed this content. If you like it, you can consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. As some of you may already know, I make one short video per day except Wednesdays when I do one of these longer ones. I also have a Patreon account, so if some of you think that that is the way that you can support me, you can find the link down in the description and the pinned comment below. In the meantime, you can watch some of my other videos, and until I see you in the next one, stay safe.